right, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMA Junkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Goes, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Well, let's get it on.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our ace co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back east, producing the show, Classy Kelly. All right, our special co-host for the day is UFC featherweight. He's to my far right. It is Calvin Kattar.
Good to be
What's
here, guys.
up, man? How you doing?
Chillin'.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, good to be here.
Some Boston swag in the studio.
In Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good to be back.
Yeah. So
Always.
Calvin will be hanging with us. We'll talk about his recent win at UFC 238. It was about a month ago, but still, it was one hell of a KO over good friend of the show, Ricardo Lamas. We'll talk about that, and obviously we've got a lot to unpack with UFC 239 and maybe a little bit of soccer. Goes is giving a little tribute to the Peruvian national team there with the kit that he's wearing. And, of course, the ladies brought it home, so we'll touch on that. Now, if you want to participate in the show, and I'm sure a lot of you do, I'm sure a lot of you want to talk about that flying knee and the split decision and the Jones fight and the wicked KO kick by Amanda Nunez. Call in 877-FIGHT-93, 877-344-4893. And you can always hit us up on Twitter as well, at MMA on SiriusXM. That works for our show and all the shows on the Fight Nation channel.
Did you
Good way to communicate with all the hosts and the producers.
Wicked KO? Was that because of him?
Yeah, wicked.
Yeah. Wicked. Yeah. I like it.
I think he wanted to look at you, and then you like have a fist out there, and then you fist bump.
Oh, my bad.
Going down. Yeah, he's over there checking out Toronto and San Antonio Summer League or something.
It's tough to pay attention with all these TVs, right? What's up with these bobbleheads too, man? You guys gotta gotta talk to your MMA bobblehead people. Get me on one of these things.
Yeah.
Oh, you're digging it, huh?
Yeah. Who do I got to knock out to get one of these?
Dude, you're already well on your way.
Let's go. Line them up, man. I just want to be a bobblehead.
4-1 in the UFC, 20-3 overall. You're a beast.
Good checkpoint.
I'm sure that day's coming.
Yeah, I think about those 3 more than the 20, but
really,
a little bit. But I learned a lot from them, and I don't get hung up on them. Ready for the next one.
Okay. All right. So, Calvin, we will circle back and talk about you and your career. And again, thank you for doing this with us, because it's always great where we can talk about, like, Dan breaks down a lot of film. Go's got history in the game, covering the sport for so long. I'm just a monkey here kind of trying to direct traffic. But we get a fighter perspective, so this will be really, really cool. Because this past Saturday, UFC 239 was something else.
Crazy.
It was the culmination of International Fight Week for 2019. We had an award show earlier in the week. We had a seasonal press conference, weigh-ins, Hall of Fame ceremony, a couple earthquakes. Yeah, and then we got to UFC 239. And normally we start with the main event. But everyone's been telling me, what about that knee? What about that knee? So let's go right into the people's main event. Jorge Masvidal defeated Ben Askren in 5 seconds, folks. 5 seconds into the first round. He basically put his hands behind his head, behind his back, kind of like has what's become his little strut, I guess it's his way of approaching you in a non-combative style, which is what he said about the approach to Leon Edwards. Except the minute you make any sort of move, them hands are coming up, and he's going to give you a 3-piece and a soda. Or in this case, I guess it was the MGM family buffet that he delivered as he ran up on Ben Askren and delivered a knee right to the dome, couple follow-ups, and that was it. All this in 5 seconds. Now, look, if he had just thrown the knee and probably thrown his hands up, done the walk-off, he may have gotten a 3-second KO. Because I've looked at it a few times, and it looks like I think 3.5 seconds would have been fairly appropriate. But, Jason Herzog, the referee, I don't even think he knew that was possible. And so by the time he got there and was able to wave it off, it technically goes down 5 seconds. Why do I keep stressing that? Well, for one, it's an incredible number. But two, it broke the record for the fastest KO across any division in the UFC. Held by Dwayne Ludwig at 6 seconds, and I think that held up for about a dozen years or so. So now Jorge Masvidal got that, and it got that job done. Look, what can you say? I mean, we're not going to really break down the fight other than it was just a beautiful knee. It makes sense. I mean, normally the intuition, the instinct of a wrestler is to duck under if he sees trouble coming. Normally, how many times have you seen a wrestler get hurt and then they go in for a single or just to grab onto something? And I would say that a striker's instinct is to maybe cover up and occasionally throw back a counter hook when you're getting an onslaught of strikes. So it was just actually great game planning. The guys from American Top Team released the video that they had worked on it, but the execution was just perfect. And one guy beat up another guy, and these two guys did not like each other, and that's, I think, what amplified all this. So let's start at the far right. Calvin, what did you think when you saw that?
I mean, like you said, man, it was the people's main event fight that I was most excited for. When I was at the UFC Expo the day before and doing some stuff with some of the other fighters, signing autographs, playing video games. I asked the fans where they were from and what fight they were most excited to see. Everyone said they were from around the area, Arizona and things, but everyone, 9 out of 10, said the Jorge Masvidal, the Masvidal versus the Askren fight was the one they were most excited for, and man, did it deliver.
Yeah. What else can we really say about it? Did Askren do anything wrong? Because look, all this went down in 5 seconds. When the referee basically told the fighters to go, you know how they're both parked in front of their corners, and we all know, and Ben Askren makes no secret of this, his striking's poor. All right. What he wants to do is to take you down. So he's just looking for an opening. We have a lot of wrestlers that'll come in and say, my hands set up my takedowns, But Ben Askren doesn't really mess around too much with the stand-up, especially with a guy like Jorge Masvidal coming off that vicious KO over Darren Till and the assault on Leon Edwards. But regardless, I can't really say he did too much wrong. I mean, Masvidal kind of did like a little bit of a sidestep, hands behind the back, and then just ran at him, and it was all over so fast. It was something else. How about you guys? What were your thoughts?
Well, at first, I mean, it all worked out for him. But how about the balls on him just trying that? Because he could have put himself in a very bad situation.
Yeah.
And that's starting the fight off with a fresh wrestler and practically giving him the takedown, right? Because if you don't knock him out or if you miss, he's going to do what everybody thought would be the only way for victory for him, and that's get a hold of him, put him down, and then start to zap that endurance that Jorge Masvidal has, right? So he took a big risk in doing that. It paid off, and, at the fights right before us, they were talking about the sportsmanship afterwards, even the call of whether or not it could have been a bad call, if he didn't get Jason Herzog, didn't get in time. I mean, it all happened so quickly, but I would say watching all that unfold over the last couple months, all the trash talk and all that, I thought it actually could have been even worse. Like, I thought Jorge actually getting the 2 shots in, maybe a little bit of taunting, but, I mean, you see what happened with Khabib and Conor and all those type of things that have been happening in our sport. I thought it probably went as well as it could have for the UFC and for Masvidal.
All right, how about you, Dan?
Well, yeah, man, not much to break down. I will say, you always ask me, George, you watched in bed, and I usually say no. I actually did this time. And, of course, I'll save it at the end, and I don't want it to, kind of like Joey Odessa odds maker, I don't want it to influence, the analysis or whatever. But I noticed that George was throwing that flying knee a lot, even like any kind of shadow boxing. When the camera goes to you guys before you come out there, I'm sure they tell you something like, hey, shadow box for the camera, Calvin.
Usually throw some bullshit.
Yeah, usually it's bullshit, but like he was actually doing the knees, and I was like, okay, and it does make sense. It's a perspective thing. After the fact, you can say, well, Ben's eating that shot a lot. His camp, sniffed it out, and definitely all credit to Masvidal's camp. I can't remember his striking coach, but that guy, man. He's done some stuff for you well, and it reminds me of Balky from Perfect Strangers, but we'll get his name later. But no, credit to their camp and everything like that. But it's a weird perspective because you can look at it and be like, oh, he's gotten hit with that shot so many times before, but at the same time, like Ben Askren, he's eating it from like Douglas Lima, Robbie Lawler, and he's been able to keep going. So what's your perspective? Is it, he eats it, all the time, where he's been able to keep eating it and be undefeated? And like Go said, that's a big gamble. It worked out obviously great, the best it could. but you could start the round off, that way. I always think back to Sean Sherk, Hermes Franco, where granted there might have been some
took a few of them.
There might have been some drugs at play in that fight, but yeah, remember how many flying knees can this guy take? And I think over 9 times out of 10, I dare say, whether the knee lands or not, the guy doesn't get knocked out and usually gets the takedown. So you think about it from that perspective. I mean, hats off to Jorge on his team for rolling that dice.
Ben's always said, he's said, I've never really felt like get my bell rung or anything like that. He goes, all the shots I've taken and everything, he goes, I've still never really felt like I've taken that sort of damage. So I think he just feels like that blueprint works, and if I have to eat a knee or a strike of some sort, okay. But trust me, once I do get my hands on you, nothing's stopping me. But I think it had more to do with reaction, just his instinct. So as he came out, of course he knew that anything and everything was live. A 3-piece combo and a soda, whatever, or just maybe Jorge moving around and trying to figure out the spacing and everything like that. But I think it was Jorge's little sidestep, the hands behind the back, and I think it was just that rush that I think threw him into a panic. And I don't think it's anything similar than when you're walking by and if your buddy messes with you and you just kind of have your hands up or whatever your defense might be that you may have been working on, or whatever techniques you use. I think that's just what it was he saw something coming, he ducked under, and it was, I mean, to sit back and think about it all, you're just like, well, that was a thing of beauty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To let it play out like that. But it wasn't like he did it straightforward. So it was one step below the obvious premeditation,
right.
Just that little sidestep and then the rush.
And can I say one thing about the after the fact stuff? And I liked your little spot on the previous show. I was listening in there. Goes, and I agree. I don't think it's the ref's fault by any means. I agree that the ref should be in there to stop it. And I feel like fighters get kind of a bad rap. But we're kind of hypocritical. I think people are still torching GDR Jermaine Durandamy, who's headlining this weekend. But yet, and hey, we got a little bit of bias here, even though we're media guys. We love ourselves some Jorge Masvidal. But I'm about to take the position where it didn't. Again, I'm not advocating for it, but it didn't offend me. It's just one of those things that I'm sure Calvin can weigh in much better than any of us as far as your guys' job in there, and the rules that are pretty hard and fast and what's at stake in regards to that. But as far as the trash talking aspect, that's the only thing I wanted to weigh in. I know I'm Mr. Contrarian, and I don't really talk. I don't really feed into the trash talk. I'm more just trying to admire what these guys do in there. But to me, it's just maybe everything kind of comes off at the same tone, and I'm numb. But it didn't seem that bad on either side. Like, I know the guys didn't like each other. I knew it stemmed from the past London show and yada yada. But I don't know. I didn't know it was as bad as it was. And and listening to Jorge, man, he really took it to heart. So I mean, I'm not. And that's all him, man. That's it. He's the one guy that has a right to take it to heart. So I'm not arguing with it. I'm just asking, did I miss something? Was it really that bad? Was it Conor Khabib level stuff?
No, it wasn't
that. It wasn't that level.
It wasn't that. It was just one guy needling the other guy relentlessly. But Jorge, I think, has just reached a point where he's kind of had it. You know what I mean? He's been in the sport. I think his first pro fight was 2003. So this is his 16th year of competition. He's 34 years old. He's been doing this since he was 18. But I think he's just kind of had it. And this is one guy that kind of turned it up on him a little bit.
And the greats got to always find a way to get a chip on their shoulder. Like we always talk about, how's Tom Brady going to get a chip on his shoulder? He won 6 Super Bowls. I got to plug in Tom Brady every time I come
Please.
here. At some
I
point.
was about to Google him, but yeah.
But, it's because, he's, they say he's too old. He's going to find something to get chipped, some kind of chip on his shoulder. And for me, anytime I can find one of them, like for the last fight I got one with Ricardo, he kind of cut me in line as we were at the Diamond MMA Cup guys. And
Ricardo Lamas?
Yeah, and we got it on camera. It was like we were doing some video for the shoot, for like the video, trying to bring it all together, and to have it. But they caught him walking up from behind me, and then he kind of just like, I don't know, big dick me, step in front. And if you check it out, it's kind of like, whoa, I just thought I was a normal person, so I kind of backed up and just let him take the spot. And then I looked at him, like, oh shit, that's Lamas. And I'm like, oh shit, did he do that on purpose? I'm like, so I was just kind of sunk in. And then before I knew it, those guys came around and like, hey, yeah, we'll get to you in a second. And then kind of dealt with me, because if they didn't, they might have lost me right there real quick, or I would have flipped all their shit. I don't know.
So even that subtle move.
Little subtle, but, and, it was nothing crazy, but it was a little something. But that was all I needed, And whatever you can get to get that chip on your shoulder, I feel like you come in there a little bit more, and you mean business a little bit more. You're a little bit more on point, focused, dialed in, and I feel like all the great ones do it. You can find something to piss you off.
I like that you bring that up. And by the way, I heard you talk about this on. Shout out to Brendan Fitzgerald, UFC commentator, Fitz and the Fighter. That was a really good interview, and you really articulated it well there, Calvin. But also in particular how it just adapts to George and what we're talking about. It's actually a really good analogy because George might not be Tom Brady, but you see it, and you're an outlier too. I mean, granted, you took some time off in your career, but guys like Masvidal, he's got that kind of young veteran feel where he had to learn a lot of licks early, and usually, that can break or make guys. They don't usually make it that far. If they do, they're not, thriving like Masvidal does. And kind of like what you said, he had to find that chip on his shoulder because if there was a fair criticism that to Masvidal throughout his career, whether it was in fights or training camps wanting to get down to the weight or the weight cut was killing him. It was what was his motivation like to cut the weight? What was his motivation like within rounds to not coast? Like those were his criticisms. And he's found some kind of fire, kind of to what you're talking about, and that's a good analogy. You
got it. It could be something. You almost got it. If you got nothing, make something up, man. Yeah. This guy's too nice. That's something, man. You got to find something to piss you off.
Why do you guys think this fight was so big? Because it was built up more one-sided because of Askren. Yep. And I plan on telling Jorge that because Jorge's coming to the studio today. But I plan on telling him, look, as much as you dislike all this, there are a lot of fans that like it.
Yep.
That's one. And two, it's what made this fight so big. And because this fight's so big and because Jorge did what he did, he's going to be able to drive up to that new swanky office and say, it's time to renegotiate. Or maybe he's a free agent. I don't know where he's at. We'll ask him all that. But I think when it's time, he's going to be able to add a zero or just – it's increased his value. You know what I mean?
Especially
Conor did it for Jose. Chael did it for Anderson. They didn't like it at first, but I think once they looked at the checks and the pay-per-view, they were like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I outsold myself on previous occasions, So there's something to it. Now, where I tend to gravitate towards what Dan stands for is your mother, your wife, your kids. You saw what happened with religion. I mean, okay, there's got to be a point where I can still needle you and build this thing up, but still not put innocence kind of like at risk.
For sure.
Because people that are attending or just people that might be, hovering around. You don't want to mess with someone's family.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's a fight, right? Mm-hmm. It's different than any other sport.
What a better place to solve it, right?
Yeah, why not get a chip on your shoulder if you're going to be going in there and competing? But like you mentioned, adding those zeros when you compound a fight like that after the previous performance he had against Darren Till, you should be asking for some zeros.
That's something else.
To compound him like that is something else. Spectacular finishes back to back.
When has he ever done that in his career? I mean, he's ice guys in spectacular. He's Edwards back in the day in Bodog, but like putting it together like that's huge.
It is huge, and consecutively, and just the two names. Both guys were top 5 guys when Masvidal beat him.
Yes.
So you'll see some movement. Early preview
Top
here on what we're gonna do with the rankings that come out tomorrow.
All right. Going back to what Dan was saying, you're right. It probably wasn't that bad, but what I want people to know is everybody has their buttons, right? And so sometimes, I think one of the things Ben said was like he's stupid, right? What triggers Jorge Masvidal might not
a UFC fight, not a playground, a school playground. He's stupid.
What triggered Jorge may not be like Ben Askren calling him stupid. It might just be, if you look at his background, years of people calling him stupid. Mm-hmm. You have no idea. Like sometimes you say the right thing, something about your family, your religion. It's not so much the one guy that said it. It's the amount that you got throughout your whole life. That's what you're seeing in front of you, and that's what you're pissed off about.
He said he felt like there was racial undertones because, that guy doesn't know how to talk or pronounce or whatever. And George has always bragged about being from the streets, and he's never told anyone, would you care to believe that I was the valedictorian? He doesn't tell anybody that or anything.
Right.
He's, but that's just kind of like the way he talks. That's just his accent or whatever. But you could tell it ruffled him. But it's funny you bring up subtle digs that one fighter can do to another.
Little man, they might not even know.
Tell me if you guys saw this. It was the weigh-in. No, I think it was the press conference weigh-in. All right, so it was during the week. Did you guys see when John came out, John Jones and Thiago Santos? Thiago had his glasses on. John didn't. John stared straight at him and then kind of turned real quick. About 5 seconds in. Yeah, he does. He turns off to the side. Thiago kept looking at him. Then John turned back just as Thiago was turning back. Then Thiago turns back to him. But as all that was happening, when they were both told to look forward, John just kind of did this whole raise his arm, but kind of partially got into what you call a little buffer zone.
Yeah.
And I was surprised Thiago, I think someone else may have maybe done a push or done something back, because it reminded me of when John did it to
Gusty.
He got in front of Gusty.
Yeah.
Gusty got back in front, and then you saw what happened.
Jocking.
Exactly.
Jocking.
You know, like
Yeah.
what'd you call it? Big dick positioning.
Yeah, and no one big dicks me, man. Like I said, I mean,
Well,
the bully,
Ricardo
I ain't
kind of
never
did.
been, yeah, but I've never been bullied a day in my life, man. The thing is, because you accept being bullied. Like, I might get fucked up, but I'll never. So can I swear on this, man?
Yes,
All right,
sir.
cool.
You're good.
Good, but I'm not. But I'm not. I'm not gonna get bullied.
If we couldn't
Let out the
cuss,
New
we
England.
probably wouldn't have brought you in, because I know how Boston rolls.
Yeah. Fuck you, fuck. No, I never been bullied. Like I said, you could accept it. You can get fucked up by not getting bullied, and they beat the shit out of you. But like, yeah, I don't accept that shit, man. And that's kind of how I've been brought up, how I've always been, and how I'll always be. I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to like play fighting. I'm fighting, and I like where Jorge Masvidal is coming from, man, because that's where the shit came from. Like, it birthed from what he's coming from.
Let's go. Let's go around the horn real fast. Were those two shots
Perfect. question.
dirty, acceptable, not dirty, Calvin?
I see, man. When I'm in there, I want to kill this motherfucker. I want to kill him. I don't know. I really do. I want to take these guys out. It's just how I feel beforehand. Like, I get this respect thing beforehand. Like with Connell, he was very nicely, and he didn't give me too much shit. But I still,
overly respectful
I was
of
more
that
like,
guy.
I was like, man, this kid's too nice. Like I said, everyone was like, too fucking nice. Fuck him. I was like getting a chip on my shoulder because he was a nice kid.
Yeah.
But now I got chips on my shoulder for other reasons with him, and I'm ready. But as far as like everybody else, man, what was the extra shots? For me, I see red when I get in there. I shake hands after, not so much before. I'm not trying to be fake about it. This guy's not my friend at the moment. You take the best I got. We're still standing in there after going toe to toe. Just shake your hand, 10 out of 10. I'll buy you a fucking drink. You know what I mean? But beforehand and during the fight, it's not my job to stop. It's a ref's job to stop. I don't know. I just see red. I think I credit the head kick knockout where she walked off. Was that the champ Valentina?
Yeah. Valentina. Yeah.
Yeah, so I credit her for doing that because she was able to do that within that heat of the second moment. But as you saw, after I clip Lamas, I don't feel like a lot of times I don't have that in me. Like, I try to go for the kill, but not to say like it's right or wrong. I'd say I respect her for stepping off, and depends which one. If I had him knocked out cold and I saw he was stiff like that, I probably let that off for sure. But if I rung a guy's bell, that's the last thing I'm gonna do is give him a chance to recover. I want the ref to. I like to put the ref in a position where he feels uncomfortable. That if he doesn't stop the fight, the pressure's on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't. So I just try to finish the fight.
I think based on the rules of what they tell them in the back, fight until I take you off, I think it's acceptable. And I think when you even throw in that this is a sport where you're not everybody's guaranteed their money. He's fighting for $100,000. And then if he wins, he gets another $100,000. He could be leaving $100,000 on the table because he wants to be a nice guy. And this isn't the sport for nice guys, right? So I think it's acceptable.
How about you, Dan?
Even though I can be called a nice guy and I've got the more martial artist mindset and all that, I also kind of have more of that philosophy, for better or worse, when I carry myself like that so-called quote-unquote street justice. So I actually don't disagree with Jorge. I wouldn't do that myself. I would like to think I'd be more on the side of a Machida guy, but not everybody can be like Machida, where not only can you knock the guy and not follow up, but also know when to follow up, where he hurt Thiago Silva, remember, and he gets the buzzer beater at the last second, but he needed that to win. Not everybody can do those things, so I never hold it against I never hold it against the fighter. The only thing I do kind of look at is after the fight's broken up over, if someone tries to punch after that, or if they win and they're still kind of a jerk, then I'm kind of like, oh man, all right. That says a lot more to me. But no, I don't. I was a Jorge Masvidal fan before this. It doesn't change it, but I also would feel hypocritical to not acknowledge what it is.
Yeah, and I'll just say that just like they say, the referee is the one that needs to intervene on that, and Jason Herzog got there as quick as he could.
One of the best, by the way. I mean, that guy is as attentive as it wasn't. He's sleeping
fast.
on the job. How much
on his
you
reactions.
expect that, like Joe said?
Right.
Thankless job, tough position.
But I will say this: Askren's already done media on it. He doesn't seem to have a problem with it. He knows that there was animosity built up.
Yeah.
But I had heard something from some of our listeners, and they said that if you think about the whole build-up to it all, and this was one that they got from years ago that doesn't get brought up too much, but it did, is the fact that Askren talked about what happened in the gym years ago, about how he got on top of him and said he was weak. And a lot of people will say, well, you don't talk about gym wars, or you don't talk about what happens. You know what I mean? And so by doing that, if you're already one that's trudging these lines, and poking and doing whatever, then hey, like you said, street justice, perfect way to
yes, sir.
word that.
And not to be a hypocrite to finish that thought. I know we got to go to break, but to bring it up, it's also hard when you look at, Nolan King just released a story about a Contender Series cat, almost died, went through this whole hospital story, broke his neck, swallowed his teeth, broke his tongue in half. All that was done by just one shot, and that shot was done not after the bell because it was an incident and not a fight. A guy just cold clocked him when he was walking away. That knocked him out, right? But it was after he hit the floor, he got just soccer kicked one to the face. That just shut his jaw, breaking all his teeth. Like it felt like dice in his mouth, split his tongue,
all of them, right?
broke his neck, almost died, and just this whole crazy story. And I know that was an out-of-context fight versus a sanctioned fight, but the point was it's apples for oranges if we're talking about 2 punches after the bell or 1 soccer kick. I mean, it's not like those soccer kicks weren't allowed in Pride. They made fans of us, the guys like Shogun, So, again, I'm not a hater or coming at. I'm not taking a side, but I think we do need to acknowledge, both sides of that.
Mm-hmm. A quick plug for that, because I've yet to read it, but I've been hearing a lot. It's on our front page.
Great story, man. Crazy story.
Is that young guy fighting on the next contender?
Tomorrow.
He's fighting tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Check it out, folks. I know a lot of the colleagues on MMA Junkie have been talking about it, and I opened it up and started in on it, but I didn't finish it, but I know the guys have, so good stuff. All right. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 156. We'll keep talking about UFC 239, which took place this past weekend. We'll talk about John Jones and Amanda Nunez, 2 arguable GOATs. I don't think with Nunez there's much of an argument, but arguable GOATs in their respective genders. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
The boys are just getting warmed up. Now the real show begins.
Has problem.
Take it away, boys.
The world famous Lisa Ann is talking fantasy football and NBA free agency tonight on Fantasy Sports Radio. Listen to Lisa Ann Does Fantasy at 10 p.m. Eastern to hear about the players Lisa Ann is targeting in her fantasy football drafts and which NBA teams are winners and losers in free agency. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy tonight at 10 Eastern on Fantasy Sports Radio, Sirius 210 XM87, and streaming on your phone and at home on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers. All right, we'll circle back and talk about the flying knee and a little bit more Masvidal and Askren because we do have some audio cuts. But look, we're 30 minutes into the show. We got to talk about the main event. John Jones defended his UFC light heavyweight title against Thiago Santos. And goes, what's that news that you just read a second ago? We know there was an injury, but how serious was it again?
So Santos tore his ACL, MCL, PCL, and meniscus.
Jeez.
All four. Wow.
I don't even think RoboCop came in that bad, right? When they rebuilt him.
I don't even know what those
That's a
are,
lot,
but those
man.
sound horrible.
That sounds like a long road back.
Yeah.
But very courageous because that, I don't know if it all happened in round one, but we saw that in round one he already was addressing. He kept looking at the knee. He knew something had happened. And for him to go another 4 against arguably the GOAT of the sport and still have one judge give him, the fight because it was a split decision. 3 rounds to 2 for 2 judges and 3 rounds for 2 for 1 judge. And still almost walked away with the title. That was simply amazing. A lot of heart by Thiago Santos.
Also, wasn't it to the other leg that the pre-existing was, but then he hurt the opposite leg in the fight? So
I'm not sure, but this one did happen during the fight, he said.
Which isn't crazy because of compensation issues. Thankfully, I haven't had anything for surgery, but I've had PCL, meniscus, and ACL slight tears where I didn't need it, but I had to do the physical therapy. Mm-hmm. And I actually started developing problems on my other leg and was told by people in the physical, the select same people you went with George there, saying so that's actually not uncommon. But then maybe another thing, and I don't know how serious it is. Perfect question for you. You've had a lot of fights in the newer, cage and whatnot. The graphics in the field there. Do your feet ever catch traction? Because for example, he was pivoting right on that the inner black octagon line, that outer warning track there. That's where he was kind of pivoting on when he was throwing the kick when they dialed in the one that kind of tweaked him.
I like that, the traction, meaning like the grip on there. I like it, and I think the UFC cage is like putting on a brand new running shoe if you're a runner and going for a run. It's so nice, especially compared to those local cages. Mm-hmm. You might get something shiny and like vinyl, slipping on vinyl.
Yeah. Okay.
And some of those ones might be peeling up, like actually peeling up. Those other ones on the UFC are like painted on, right?
Yeah, they're a good job. Like, I haven't heard a complaint since maybe, Lando Venata, Tony Ferguson, where everybody was like, okay, how much of it was a slip and Eddie got rocked, and but I haven't really heard any complaints from fighters really in years from UFC.
I mean, just from where I've come from the cages, most guys, especially I would assume, like local cages, it's just you step in the UFC cage and you're like, oh, this is how it's supposed to feel. Push you back on the cage. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful cage.
All right. Well, that's an injury that's going to have him out to about a year. You know what I mean? Right. Now, look, he just had a great fight. And honestly, Thiago Santos, I think, has had 6 fights in like 18 months. He could use a break. He had a really, really busy run, man, of fights. Yeah. And he's not going to drop too far, in the rankings. I mean, again, he went to a split. John Jones has never gone to a split decision. You know what I mean? So, because remember, the Alexander Gustafsson, which was one of his closer fights, that one was a unanimous decision, but it was a close fight. But so imagine what was going through John Jones's head when he heard that, because that was the first thing they said was Junichiro Kamichio, I think is his name, 48-47, Santos, and I was like, oh, here we go, But he did get his hand raised. He won.
That's a good point, because a lot of people were saying, does he merit a rematch? Of course he merits a rematch. How many people merit rematches? But rematches are a tricky thing. And I think off the top of my head, the dude's had 11 fights in 2 years, and I don't want to say 12 fights in 27 months.
Santos?
Yeah. It's insane.
It's
UFC level, all of them.
Yeah, it is. So, look, he probably just could use the time off, but, yeah, he's got to address all these injuries on the knee, and hopefully he made some good money from that fight, man. Because that was something else. In the co-main event, Amanda Nunez defeated Holly Holm, and I mean further cemented her reign as the queen of women's MMA, not just in the UFC now actively, but arguably pretty much just the greatest of all time. She's now defeated Chris Cyborg, Valentina Shevchenko, Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, and Holly Holm, all current or former world champions, and all pretty much ladies that you could, throw in that argument for Mount Rushmores or whatever. But simply amazing. And here's the other thing, guys. She, with the exception of the Shevchenko fight, she fairly makes it look easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hope that it seems like she's turned a corner where she's starting to become a little bit more marketable. The UFC's pushing her a little bit more, but it just sucks that if you look at the male side of that, if somebody were to be able to do that, she's beaten every champion there ever been in her division.
Yeah.
If somebody on the male side did that, it'd be a lot of money that they'd be making. I hope she gets compensated that way.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Calvin? Greatest ever, right, Amanda?
Yeah, for sure. Who else is there for her to fight? It's incredible, like you said, and then how fast she's taking them out, making it look easy. And then back to the pay. I was hearing you had mentioned the soccer a little bit, right? But not to get there too soon. I heard Snoop put out a post today saying that they're getting paid like $99,000 or $90,000 if they won the cup, and the guys get like $500,000. He was saying that pay should be kind of similar, but I guess maybe they have it in all sports, right?
Similar in MMA, or
as far as like you're saying the pay scale, men and women. But at the same time,
whatever
the men's division
sell, you should bring in
exactly, and that's
so
what
when
it is.
Ronda was selling, her even outpaying the men, outdrawing the men and 100%. Making more money. Good for you, because you're selling. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think Amanda's slowly getting there, because now out of sheer greatness and destruction. Mm-hmm. As far as the soccer, if you want to just go there for a second, it's not so much. Look, there's a disparity, but the Women's World Cup pool of money that is allotted to everybody, all the teams, is just not as big as the one for the men. So you're going to break the organization that throws it. Yeah. Because they're just not going to have it to pay. You know what I mean? So can we get it to it so it's equal? Sure. If a lot of people are tuning into the Women's World Cup eventually, like they do for the men's, then I imagine they can get that way. Yeah. But right now we're not there.
To his credit, though, to what he's saying, like when you think about it, think about how much the world almost shuts down when the women do it versus the men. Not everybody's into the men, and it's because they haven't performed to the level of the women. And didn't you say something about their jerseys, like one of the highest jerseys sold by Nike or something like that?
The women's, yeah.
Yeah. So they are doing their part.
Right, but Nike doesn't write the checks, though.
I know, but I'm just saying, the attention that they get from other people, all that, they deserve it. They are pulling in eyes and stuff. You woke up for the game, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
Right. You made this argument before, and I just want Rebecca Lobo or someone to come in and just call you out, George, when you're making this point. What is that? Can you say that again, George?
Hey, like I say, if the money's there, pay them. And I'll give, great examples of women that, like I say, they make more than their counterparts.
For sure.
So forget even equal on their side, they're outdrawing. But the women's soccer team is slowly getting there. Maybe they can get bigger endorsements from Nike. If they're selling more, maybe they can earn the males, counterparts. But back to Amanda Nunez, she is just something else. Okay, that was going to be my next question. We'll start with Dan this time. Okay. Who is next for Amanda Nunez? Give me a couple names and why. What direction the UFC should go in?
I think, the Cyborg rematch is kind of the easy gimme out there, because there's not a lot of names, kind of in reference to your question earlier, even the low-key names that no one talks about. This weekend, in MMA, it shows just how good she is. We got, Julia Budd, the featherweight champion, Bellator defending her title. She's got a win over her. Jermaine Durandamy, who technically never lost the belt, and again, like I said at the top of the show, gets a lot of crap, so I think that kind of interferes. She's a really talented fighter, and, She beat her, the second fight in the UFC or something like that, TKO from the mount. But yeah, so obviously the featherweight. But I will say this: I like GDR, and I'm finishing up my tape study there, so I don't know which way I'm leaning. Kind of leaning toward who's the favorite right now, Aspen Ladd, because she just seems to be really mean, man, taking down girls in the clinch, whether they're a wrestler like Tanya Evinger or a Muay Thai fighter. She's had that look before too. If she's able to just take GDR down and just pound her out. Man, I think that's an interesting matchup because I would still obviously favor and more than likely pick Amanda Nunez. But that's one of those fights where I go, if Amanda Nunez doesn't knock out a girl like an Aspen Ladd, in the first round, a girl that's going to put a lot of volume, a lot of pressure, make a girl like Amanda Nunez work, maybe make those old demons come out of her cardio tank. I mean, she's went 5 rounds. We haven't seen it at a torrid pace. And if she beats GDR, she's still an undefeated fighter, which is so rare. We were just talking about that. It's so rare to have an undefeated record. Again, not to saying that anybody's really going to be, running out to bet the house on Ladd, but I do think it's a sellable fight as far as Nunez really doesn't have much options.
Right. I'm going to go with that's not a bad one right there because it all depends on Caitlin Vera's health. She's 10-0 overall and 4-0 in the UFC.
Yeah.
So, but she had an injury that's kind of kept her out for the last few months. Now she's like raising her hand saying, I got next, I got the winner. Then I could see them going her way. But other than that, GDR versus Aspen Ladd is another way to go. And to be fair, Cyborg does have a fight coming up, and it's coming up within about a month or less. But she does have an opponent. It's Felicia Spencer.
She does,
and if Spencer can beat Cyborg, then now she's the number one contender at 45 after beating Megan Anderson and Cyborg, if she can beat her. And if Amanda wants to go that route of being a dual champ, then she may actually have the lead. How about you guys?
I think it's going to come down to storylines and how you can sell it because she's been so destructive with everyone. I mean, based on what the UFC likes to do, I imagine they're hoping Cyborg has a tremendous performance, and then they go, how could you not give her the rematch? And they put that together. But the one matchup that I've been thinking about, actually two of them, because you need storylines, you got to go to the girl who beat Amanda, which is Kat Zingano. And granted, she's far away from a title fight.
Crazy fight.
But whatever that road is for a normal person, if it's 4 fights, 5 fights, 3 fights, whatever, it's less for Kat Zingano because she has a win and they can sell that. So I could see them maybe giving her a little bit of an easier route. And then Valentina Shevchenko, I know that they've already fought twice, but she's given her a run for her money. And if she just keeps going through people, I could see them maybe figuring out a way to do that for a third time.
And to be clear, one of them was for the title, the other one wasn't. Usually when you've lost twice to the champ in an attempt to win the title,
you're right.
That's when you're really, really not blackballed.
Scale's a little heavier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How about you, Calvin? You liking Cyborg angle, or you want her to stick at bantamweight, or you want her to give up one of the belts? What's up?
I think she should take on Max Holloway and unify the belts. Who else is there?
Yeah, really.
I mean, I like the Cyborg rematch. That sounds fun. Not to say that the same outcome wouldn't happen, but it'd be great to watch again because, holy shit, that was crazy that first time. But, that Kat Zingano's a good story. What's Tatiana Suarez's weight class?
She's a strawweight. She's undefeated,
and
she's like number 2.
Yeah,
so she's making some noise, definitely.
Yeah, she's killing
I could see her getting the winner of Weili Zhang and Jessica Andrade.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, I think was she talking about a neck injury though? She may have been talking about a neck injury. She was on your card.
Yeah, she was.
She's had that pre-existing injury from the wrestling days.
Yeah,
and it kind of came back. So depending on the severity of it, she could be next, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe some. Although the other ones make more sense, like you mentioned. I think Max Holloway is a good one.
It's similar. Not to get us off topic, because it's actually similar to topic. When you start rounding out, like we're talking about, getting toward the crop of top contenders, you're doing that right now in your division. You just mentioned Max Holloway. Are you the type of guy where are you Max Holloway said he's been scouting Jose Aldo a bunch of times before he even fought him? Do you do that? Does Tyson do that? Both of you?
Tyson's more the scouter. I'm aware of these guys because I've watched them a lot. Just happen to be watching them, and I'm trying to be more of a student of the game. Always trying to pick up things from everybody. And I think there's a couple guys that do that really well. I think it's a huge advantage. But Tyson puts together most of the game plans, and we just dial in as the fight gets closer.
Okay.
But I like certain things from each guy that I happen to already catch my eye, things that they do, and there's definitely all those. But that's all weight classes.
Give us an example of someone that's done something recently where you're like, all right, you're on my radar.
You're on the list.
Shit, let me think.
Or radar, yeah, right.
And it could even just be down to just moves, certain things that they're doing. But when we saw Khabib just wrapping people up on the ground, we studied that a little bit, started trying to get on point with what he's doing, because it's not luck. He's not, he's holding these guys down. They can't move. So we studied that for a bit. I feel like I got some tools in the arsenal with that. And I haven't even hit the damn ground yet, for the most part, right? So these guys all saying they want to test my ground, but too busy testing their chins.
All right, let me circle back to something since we're back on you for a sec. You said you might have some more chips on your shoulder from Moicano. What did that mean? Is that something you're going to hold on to?
No, of course. You won. Any guy you lose to, like you said, the story Kat Zingano. No.
I wasn't sure if all of a sudden maybe.
No, he didn't do anything. I've seen him, even actually at Greenville. He fought in Greenville, and what a tough loss. It was a great, Zombie's a beast too. I asked for that before, possibly the Stevens fight. Maybe now we're shooting for October fight, but
maybe you and Stevens.
Yeah, that could be cool too. I know he grabbed me yesterday
Zombie.
when we were watching the fight. I was at the T-Mobile. We were up at the top in the bar area, and I was watching the fight. And he came up, tapped me on the arm, and asked me if I can come with him. I'm like, all right, what's up? And put my drink down, followed him in case case she had to go down right there. And then she actually kept it in my fucking hand. But followed him up. He brought me over to Sean Shelby, who was there. Tried cooling down a little bit because I figured it was more of that. But he mentioned, what's up with TD Guard in Boston? Let's make it happen. I told him, let's do it. So we'll see.
Where
It's
did
in
he
Sean
take
Shelby's
you to?
hand
Just
now.
like a back room?
Right around the corner. It was a short walk. And, they took a picture, posted it. He said something about knowing a real one, talking about it. So we'll see, man. Hopefully that happens in Boston. I'd love to headline. If that's a name me fighting will get me a headline position, then Jeremy Stephens it is. And if it's not, I want someone who is worth headlining at TD Guard in Boston. So
I love Jeremy Stephens, but that is definitely the right move. By the way, you're not middleweight, so you should be okay. If Brad Tavares ever asks you if you want to see his truck, say no.
Say no.
Yeah,
how far would you have gone before, like, where you need an explanation? Like, if he's hitting
probably like 2 more steps.
Yeah.
I don't fuck
Was there
around,
tension?
man. I don't know. Like you said, this is like a fighting sport, but it's not really a sport to me. Like, I've only fought when I had, like, that shit drove me to fight. Like, I just need to get it out. Like, I need to get dark, could use some cash, whatever. So, like, I don't know. And then I get it. He's selling the fight, man. Let's sell the fight. Let's make it happen. But I think that fight will sell itself almost in a sense. And just knowing each style and what we bring to the table, and when we come to fight, we come to fight. You know what you're getting with me. You know what you're getting with Jeremy Stephens. It'll be a banger of a headline card. I'd love to do it.
But quick recap. He tapped you on the shoulder. He goes, "Can you come with me?"
Yeah, he didn't tell me to come with him. He asked me. So, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But
you didn't go, "What's this about?" Or you just went.
No. I'm sure it was I figured it had something to do with
right
throwing
but you
down.
said the tension was rising.
I didn't know if it was now or in the future. So I was just seeing what was up, and it's good to be on everybody's radar, man. That's all I can say.
It's interesting how that went
it's a
down.
compliment. So thank you.
Okay, all right. We got to take a quick break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156. When we come back, we're going to do our daily debate, and we'll go through the rest of the card that include wins from Michael Chiesa, Jan Blachowicz, and we'll share all the pertinent information from the fight card as well, UFC 239 in the books.
Anything. Everybody knows it's duck season.
Rabbit season.
Duck season.
Rabbit season.
Whether it's food, less filling,
Tastes great.
less filling,
Tastes great.
gambling, always bet on black.
I like red.
Black.
Red.
Black.
Red.
Black, dummy. Or even social media. Instagram.
Snapchat.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
The same applies to the biggest stories in MMA. Time for MMA Junkie Radio's Daily Debate.
All right, today's daily debate question for the at MMA Junkie Radio team, including UFC featherweight Calvin Kattar. If Amanda Nunez solidified her status as the women's GOAT, greatest of all time, at hashtag UFC 239, then who is number 2, guys? Here are your choices. Chris Cyborg, Ronda Rousey, Valentina Shevchenko, or other. And if you choose other, then obviously tell us what lady you think should be there. Dan, Tom, start things off.
Curious to see what people have for others. Obviously, names that come to mind as our coworker Misha Tate, our colleague, I should say. Big fan of hers. Big fan of Valentina Shevchenko as far as active fighters, but I got to go Chris Cyborg. I think that's when everybody started turning the corner on Nunez, and rightfully so. Cyborg had this streak. Give me Cyborg.
Cyborg. All right. How about you guys?
I'm actually going to go with Valentina Shevchenko. It's a tricky question. I was going through it, and I looked at Cyborg, and I don't know if the skins really match up with the other girls, and it's just because she hasn't really had that many dance partners as the other girls. With Valentina Shevchenko, when you're breaking her down, her losses have come to, Amanda Nunez is the GOAT. That's almost forgivable, right? She has a win over another person that would probably be in the other category, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So I think my number 2 would be Valentina.
All right. How about you, Calvin?
I go with Cyborg just because I'd like to see it again. It was a spectacle. But other than that, not to say it'd be any different than the first time. She handled it really well. But I'd like to see it again.
No one's giving love to Ronda Rousey, huh?
I mean, is her name still on the list?
Well, he's got a Peru shirt over there.
that might have
for
something to do
Valentina
with it.
Shevchenko.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Is Ronda Rousey going to fight again? I mean, is that like a relevant name on the list? Should that be named on the list? Who else we throwing on this list?
Ronda Rousey had 5 title defenses, and she was just dominant and plowing through the other females. You know what I mean?
Oh, Ronda got another vote.
Okay. No, I'm just saying, Chris Cyborg was very dominant, but I don't feel like her level of competition was kind of like what Ronda was facing, maybe. Valentina Shevchenko, one thing that you can say about her is she's got a bantamweight resume and a flyweight resume, and now she's got a title defense. So it's like, I mean, this is like a horse race, neck and neck all the way to the end. And I'll throw out a couple other names for other. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she had 5 title defenses as well. Very, very impressive. I think Ronda had 6 and Joanna had 5. Megumi Fujii was a pioneer, and a Japanese fighter who got to like 20-0 or 20-1 or something like that. But long cemented her status. Even Gina Carano only had the 1 loss. And against Cyborg, the ending wasn't good, but she had some moments in that fight. So it depends. It depends if you're going to count the title defenses and what they brought to the table and what you did to women's MMA. Man, I'm starting to lean a little bit towards Ronda and the power she had. But I'm a big pound-for-pound person, so I'm going to go with Valentina Shevchenko because I think she just, she's had great showings in 2 different weight classes. And that, to me, is pretty damn impressive. Now, here's a fun fact I'll throw at you guys, and then Dan, you can get your point in. So Cyborg, Rousey, and Shevchenko all have less losses than Amanda Nunez, but they all have lost to Amanda Nunez. But go ahead.
You're right, but one of those losses, Nunez, no shame, but is to Liz Carmouche. Granted, she's going to be in time to have a rematch now, so I will say that although I didn't vote for her, she gets that win in that rematch. She avenges that loss. Then I say she's the clear number 2, Shevchenko.
All right. Now, this is how the voting broke down. It was really, really close. 42% said Cyborg. 36% said Shevchenko. 21% said Ronda Rousey. 1% said other. And some of the others that came in were Joanna Jędrzejczyk. That came courtesy of Sarah Dorr, at Sarah Dorr 1 on Twitter. And then at Metafo 736985592. What a ridiculous Twitter handle that is.
83.
He said, she said, Megumi Fujii hands down. I hate that hands down. Just say Megumi Fujii is my vote. Don't say hands down, because hands down means the other one shouldn't even be involved in the conversation, and that's ridiculous.
Good chip on your shoulder right there. That's what I'm saying. You find something. You just got to find something to piss you off.
True.
I like
true.
it.
Maybe I fell for it. Anyway, that's today's Daily Debate, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team and UFC featherweight Calvin Kattar. All right, folks, we are approaching here the top of the hour break. We still got an hour to go, but let me just tell you some fun facts and figures from UFC 239, which took place this past weekend in Las Vegas. The total gate was 6,063,707. The total attendance was 18,358. The performance bonuses, that's 50 grand, when each went to Amanda Nunez, Jorge Masvidal, Jan Blachowicz, and Song Yadong. All right, folks, we'll be right back in 60 seconds, and we'll talk about all that when we come back.
Their mantles are covered with participation awards. They have boxes of gold stars that they purchase themselves. They are the legends and demand your respect. Here are George and Goes.
All right, we're back. It's MMA Junkie Radio coming at you here with another hour still to go. Jorge Masvidal has come into the studio. He'll be joining us here on the panel. So we'll talk a little bit more about his fight, which we did touch on earlier, but now it's time to really dive into it with him. All right, so he's just high-fiving us, or what's the deal? Jorge, you ready to go? Jorge came in, high-fived us everything, and then he stepped out. Was it just high fives, or are you going to do the show? Okay, there he is. Want to welcome to the show UFC welterweight Jorge Masvidal, game bred, and also the record holder in the UFC now for the fastest KO ever, 5 seconds. Quick work, man. Congrats.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, how you feeling?
Fucking amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Has it worn off, or are you still like on that high?
Well, it's a different type of high for me because I saw it in my head a long time ago. So just to make it come true, it tells me that my plans work, you know?
Right.
So in that sense, it feels like even more amazing.
What are people telling you, like the fans or the media or even your homies, your texts? What kind of reaction are people giving you?
Well, I've been saying that in the streets. I don't know. I don't look at the phone too much. But I think it's an awesome reaction when I do see a lot of the highlights and memes that I'm seeing are pretty fucking funny, man.
Uh-huh.
Some people are killers out there with the computer, bro. They fucking hurt feelings. And it's pretty cool.
And was there any reaction that surprised you the most? Maybe just a teammate or something, or your own team.
Well, actually, it hit me hard when I got back to the hotel. I was chilling, and we were talking in a group of fights and this and that. And I started to think, I go, man, I got the fastest KO out of everybody. There's a lot of animals in here that are good athletes.
26 years the UFC's existed.
Yeah. Fuck.
And you broke a record that's like 12, 13 years old. It's not like it was set like last week or nothing like that. Yeah. It's held up for a long time. I mean, that's pretty tough to break. And we were arguing that it could have been 3 seconds, perhaps, you know. That would have required maybe you to like raise your hands and just walk off. I mean, I don't know, but you came back, and I guess with the follow-up, maybe that kept the referee from completely waving it off. But it was really done in 3 seconds.
Yeah. Well, once he was night, yeah, about 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Did that satisfy you? Because you did say you wanted 14 minutes of a beatdown and then night, but the night came a lot earlier.
I broke the record. I'm happy. I'm going to take that one and fucking take it in stride. I'm happy I broke the record, so yeah, I'm happy. I would have loved to beat him up for 14 minutes, so I truly felt that the way my defensive skills line up as far as a stand-up and wrestling goes put together, I would have made it a nightmare for him to ever get to my leg.
Okay.
Just to start the fight with the athleticism that I have and the way that my defensive maneuvers are in standing, the way I can move my feet, I'd be a nightmare for him to get to my leg.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to show that to him, Sucks he couldn't get past level 1, the chin checkers.
Gotcha. Now, last one for me, and then Goes wants to chime in here. Calvin, if you have anything for him as well, please let us know. You're our co-host for the day. Look, there's not much to break down, man. This thing went down 5 seconds. But I feel like, not to say that the move wouldn't have worked otherwise, all right? Whether your hands were down or not, it was just that little subtle step, which, I don't know, I think added to the confusion. And then all of a sudden you hit the accelerator and came at him, and the wrestling reaction was to just duck down, you know what I mean? Was that a little bit of a trick that you needed? Was it a little sidestep? Or could you have just started the fight and just done a full run?
I could have done whatever I wanted to. That's what pulled me at that moment. That's what the subconscious and the conscious mind decided was the best plan of attack for this animal that's trying to hurt me. So that's what happened.
All right, so there's nothing to
happened to have
dive
some hot
into
sauce
here.
With it. Happened to have a lot of swag. He had the hands behind the back because he's a fish.
Yeah.
He took the bait. He came forward.
But that had nothing to do then with your footwork or an angle or the octagon.
I definitely needed the hands behind the back just to get him worked up, to like extra. Like, okay, I'm coming for you,
Yeah.
It was perfect. He took that step a little bit too hard coming forward. That's it. Done.
Yeah. All right. Jorge Masvidal, our guest here in studio. Calvin Kattar, our guest co-host, also here in studio. Goes, what do you have for Jorge?
Jorge, when you walked away from Ben Askren that night, do you feel like it's the last time you'll ever have to deal with this guy, or can you ever foresee in the future, if things work out again, fighting him another time?
You said like fighting, like with punches and kicks and
everything. Yeah.
You think that dude would fight me again?
I don't know. If he did, though, would you ever entertain it? Like, do you feel like you walked away from him for the last time? That's it?
I can't. We can't speak of things that are no longer present here. 'Cause that's almost disrespectful. Like, if somebody's dead, I don't talk about him. We shouldn't talk about Ben like that, man. 'Cause that dude is no longer with us, bro. I can't. That dude will have to be a maniac to sign the contract and say, you know what? Let me give it another go at this thing with this guy. It's not too keen on me, bro. Mm-hmm. There's no way, man. That'll never happen.
Well, and you've never done a rematch, right? If I'm not
I've
mistaken.
always wanted a rematch. I've never done.
Well, if you weren't in his head before, you are now. So if you did have a rematch,
if he picked up the phone, if for some reason on your phone it rang and it said Ben Askren, would you even take the call?
Yeah, for a fact.
Yeah?
I'd be upset that he has my phone number. I'd straighten him out for that, but I'd definitely pick up the phone call.
What if he said I got it from Goes?
Goes is in trouble, man.
Oh, man.
Because I'm going to find the source, and they're going to get it, man.
What are you going to do to Goes, honestly?
A Charlie horse to the leg. Nobody gets
Oh,
up,
okay.
at least.
I guess you could live with that.
I'll tell you what, when you walked in.
Like a 3-day fucking Masvidal, I know everybody has their gauges,
Uh-huh. When he came in, he didn't give me the 3-piece and a Coke, but he did give me a 2-piece, and I was less scared of that than if he would have had his hands behind his back. If his hands would have been behind his back, I would have ran out that door.
That's the signature move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Jorge, let me ask you this. I asked you this when we interviewed you on the phone about your dad and what your dad wanted you to do to him. Was your dad fulfilled with it?
Oh, yeah. He was the happiest guy on the planet. He didn't... me and my dad, he's one of the people that I discuss the strategy a lot. He always asks me, what are you going to do for this one in particular, And he knows about MMA enough. He's been around the sport long enough that he knows in what departments I match up well with other guys. He doesn't know who the best grappler or wrestler is, but he could tell more or less in ways that I'll match up well. So we talk about game plans a lot, and he said, nah, man, just take him out quick. Just show everybody he doesn't belong in there with you guys. I was like, all right, fuck it. You win.
When did you finally get to sleep that night?
Oh, I haven't slept.
Still?
I haven't slept, man. But
Surprised
that's a personal
everyone
choice. I'm doing a sleeping detox thing right now. Don't sleep for like 6 days, and then it's like.
Where have you been going?
That's undisclosed, man.
Oh, okay. That means the Rhino, Sapphires,
No,
McDonald's.
hell no.
McDonald's.
Maybe McDonald's.
McDonald's drive-thru. You said you were going to crush some burgers, right? Which ones did you crush?
Well, when I got to my hotel, I had numerous burgers there as like peace offerings. Like people that knew that would hit the spot. So it was burgers there. I don't recall from where I eat because I eat a lot of burgers.
Do you have a favorite burger here in Vegas? Are you an In-N-Out
I like
guy?
Guy Fieri's burger a lot.
Really?
Yeah. I like his burger.
You're not one of those guys that says, man, when I'm in Vegas, I want to smash one of them In-N-Outs.
I like In-N-Out, but if I could pick, I prefer Guy Fieri's burgers.
Yeah? How about you, Calvin? Are you an In-N-Out guy?
Be lying if I didn't say I went by there for the first time this week.
What'd you think?
It's all right.
Did
I
it
like the
live up?
presentation was nicer than anything. You know, open face, facing at you. It's all right. It was a burger.
All right.
Tough to find a bad burger.
All right. Jorge, you know, I think most people are saying that you got yourself a title shot because of how spectacular the win is. That, piggybacking what you did to Darren Till in London, I mean, it's just, you know, when we watch the way the UFC match makes, a lot of times they just go with the hot ticket, you know what I mean? And I know Colby's a good friend of yours. I know Colby's been in that spot, but you know, a lot of people are saying that you basically grabbed it and it's yours. Now, I know you feel that way, but have you or your management already been in contact about that? And like, what's the plan right now? Are you basically just chilling back and saying, "Don't call me until Kamaru is ready to go"? Is that how you're feeling?
Shit, it's right there. We could ask him because some of these questions they have security clearances, so he could answer the ones that I don't know. Because one of them I don't know if I could answer it really.
Which one?
The one about details and stuff of what's next. Because we just had a meeting today at the PI
with Dana,
with some of the higher ups of the UFC.
What'd they say?
I don't know if I could say. You know what I'm saying? That's why I got to clear with the brains of the operation.
With Abe?
Of course.
Oh, well, let's take a quick break and then we'll add Abe to the dais.
Yeah, don't make me use brain power, bro. You have to make me think and stuff.
All right, let's take a quick break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156. We got Jorge Masvidal in the house. We have Calvin Kattar in the house, and we'll be right back. Stars in the league are still on the open market. Rumors, trades, and free agency signings. We've got you covered all summer long on NBA Radio Series 207 XM86 and on the SiriusXM app. All right, so let me reintroduce the dais. Joining us now is Abe Kawa, Jorge Masvidal's manager, and also manager to other stars like Tyron Woodley and a guy named John Jones. We have Calvin Kattar, UFC featherweight, on the far right, coming off a big win in Chicago at UFC 238 over Ricardo Lamas. And, of course, Jorge Masvidal, who delivered the 5-second KO finish, an MGM buffet style, family buffet style, I think is what you were calling it, over Ben Askren at UFC 239, setting the record for the fastest KO ever. So we were asking Jorge some questions, and he wasn't sure what he should divulge or not, so he played it safe. He said, hey, let me bring in the guy that makes some of these decisions with me. So, Abe, apparently you guys had a meeting at the UFC today?
We did.
Well, what was discussed? Because my question to him was, are you basically just going to wait for the call, hey, Kamaru's healthy, let's run it?
Well, I think that would be the best case scenario. Kamaru ends up coming back healthy and saying, you know what, the only fight out there that makes a lot of sense is Jorge Masvidal at the time right now. It's the only one that's going to, he's hot. And what we know in this sport right now is when you're hot, you strike and you take it while you can. For Kamaru for his pockets, it makes sense going up against a guy that's going to drive the pay-per-views up. Mm-hmm. I don't know if a guy like Colby does the same thing. I can't see that happening. So unless GSP is coming back, I think Jorge's the guy.
So he's pretty much just going to rest up and enjoy his summer and wait for something like that. Then.
This is the battle being an agent with a guy who wants to fight everybody all the time.
Oh, so if it was up to him, he'd fight.
He'll fight tomorrow. He's healthy. It was 5 seconds. His last fight was 5 seconds. He'd fight tomorrow if he could.
Your knee all right?
So,
No bump. Okay, all right. So then even right here, it's like you're trying to control.
This is where, it becomes a little bit like, patience pays sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't, but for the most part, listen, if Conor tomorrow comes out and says, we want to fight Jorge Masvidal, belt, no belt, we're taking that fight. It's life-changing. It'll put money in his pocket as well. If something happens, between Robbie and Colby, I don't know if we would step in on that end. I don't think we have to. So I think we wait. I think right now, let's wait until August 3rd, see what happens August 3rd. If Colby can't go out there and make a statement, I don't know that he's probably going to get the next title shot. That I don't know.
Did Conor's name come up at the meeting today as a possibility?
I brought it up.
Okay.
I brought up Conor's name as a possibility, and, the answer is we just don't know what Conor's going to do. Conor does what Conor wants to do, so
right.
He's always in the driver's seat.
Yeah. Did that come from you, Jorge? Is that what you wanted, or?
That came from me.
Oh, okay.
That came from me.
Does it interest you?
If the fight would actually happen, hell yeah.
More than fighting the undisputed champion, Kamaru Usman?
Both, I think, are good matchups for me, so either one would really be a blessing, man.
Mm-hmm. So what else can you tell us from that meeting that took place?
I think for the most part, the UFC execs didn't really know Jorge. For as long as he's been in the sport and as long as
that's a damn shame too, man.
Not they didn't know him of him. They obviously knew him as a fighter, but they didn't know him personally. And I just wanted to make sure he got the opportunity to meet them, speak to them, let them understand his psyche and what he thinks is, as a fighter, what he does, how he does it, how marketable he is, and how much he's dying to get to that next level. And
right.
he's there now, so they can't deny, they can't say that.
How long was that meeting?
It was about an hour. We had lunch with them and everything. It was about an hour.
Was Dana part of it?
Dana, no. It was just Hunter Campbell.
Man, we got to get Dana because we've been saying it for a long time. Jorge oozes a quiet type of charisma, not like a boisterous pro wrestling type of charisma, but he just chooses his words wisely, but they carry weight. All right? Listen, Kimbo was the man. That was your homie. I know that, right? May he rest in peace. But Jorge got a lot of love from those fights because of what he did. He took out Kimbo's boy. He was outsized. That swagger just for some reason through Strikeforce, Shark Fights, Bodog, all the different organizations that we've covered you for a long time. The Playboy Mansion card. It was very important that we were at that card, by the way. All that stuff. For some reason, I just couldn't understand why he didn't get that type of love. Hey, this guy also fought when Kimbo fought.
I'm with you on that. I've been following him. I told him this a long time. I've been following him since the Kimbo days. Being from Miami, I'm going to know who he is. I'm going to follow him. I'm going to be a fan. And I told him that I was his fan first before I was anything else. And doing that, I was able to go out there and scream for him on the background, just kind of create a little bit more noise to where, hey, you have to look at this guy. Look at his skills. He is this good. He can beat these guys. He can be your champion. Get behind him. You'll see what would happen. Mm-hmm. And it sort of worked. He did a lot of it on his own. We've kind of come up with a lot of good game plans, and it's worked.
All right, and I have to be nosy. It's my job, but he made 100 and 100, which I think is underpaid because his tenure in the sport and, again, just what he's done. Did you guys come away with some extra zeros, maybe?
We absolutely will be talking about extra zeros. We spoke about it in the meeting.
Because now's when you strike, right? When you have a little bit of leverage, and Google alerts are popping up, and the traffic's through the roof.
What I can tell you about the UFC execs is when they have someone and they know how to treat them right when it comes time to treating them right. And we were told he was going to be treated right, so I can absolutely take that to the bank and cash that.
Mm-hmm. Feeling better, Jorge? The kids' college is starting to
Till I don't see the paperwork.
Covered a little bit.
Till I don't see the paperwork.
That's true, man.
I can't even get excited for it. Words are just words.
So just to clarify here, you just are anxious to fight.
It's not that I'm anxious to fight. It's just I like to fight. I have no injuries. I'm not like I need to fight right now.
And you're trying to stop him from that.
Well, I just think that we're in a position where we don't have to fight. When you're in a position that you don't have to fight and you've already sort of solidified your title shot, whether you get the title shot today or you get it in 6 months, there really is no difference other than the timing of the title shot. The numbers won't change. The person won't. You know what I mean? Like maybe the person is different, but the numbers won't change. So just take your time.
Mm-hmm. And you said something about Colby and Lawler, but that's not some rumor out there, right? That fight's a go. And it's not like Jorge's ready to go.
Oh no. I meant that as like in case something happened to one of them, would they ask us to step in? I'm pretty sure they would, but I don't know if it makes sense for us to take the fight or not. I mean, listen, something happens to Colby, and Jorge has to go fight Robbie. I think it's a huge fight. I mean, I want to watch that fight personally, just be on this side of it. But does it make sense?
Right. So now let me ask you one other question. Jorge might not like this one because it's an additional 15 pounds he'd have to lose. But ever since he came back from Exalton, he's been really, really lean. He's been really, really focused. But man, that lightweight money's pretty big. You think of Khabib, Conor, Tony, Justin Gaethje. I mean, he brought over a nice salary from World Series of Fighting, now PFL. Jorge, is your door closed at 155 pounds, or will you entertain that? Are you like a money weight guy, like your homie King Mo? Where do you stand on all this?
I'd lose considerable power and endurance to go down to 155. So I would have to make considerable money, like huge money, because it just at 173 pounds, I'm like 5% body fat, or not like I'm exactly 5% body fat. Mm-hmm. The rest is just water. So at this age, it hurts a lot,
So that ship sailed then, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
or is it still in the harbor?
No, it's not that it's in the harbor or it sailed or anything. It's wherever I want to put the ship. If the money I feel is right for that, then I'll destroy my kidneys one more time. Fuck it.
Oh, no, I don't want to hear that, man. I hate it when the athletes. What do you think, Gabe?
That's the truth. When you're losing over like 10, 12, 13 pounds of water, man, that shit's hurting.
Well, the kidneys and losing the power, that don't sound. I want to see the best game bred out there.
I remember when he weighed in at 155 against Chiesa. Had to be carried on to the scale.
Yeah.
It's a scary sight. You don't really want to, it's just not. It's not healthy. So if they were going to offer something at 155 where it did make a whole lot of sense, the numbers have to make sense for that, because I'm not going to be okay with him putting himself through that.
Right.
Just to fight Khabib or just.
Plus he's 43 now, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry, 33. No, I'm just. All right. Well, hey man. And can you divulge anything else from the meeting? Anything that stands out where you feel like, hey, Team Masvidal scored over here a little bit?
I actually have a question for Jorge. I haven't even asked him yet.
Oh yeah.
Why did you say he got the full buffet? What does that mean?
Well, because you go to the buffet and you're really hungry and you get the all you could eat, what happens after? You go to sleep. That's why you got the buffet to the face.
It's genius.
Yeah.
That's genius. Okay.
Since we have you here, if you don't mind, a couple questions on John Jones. He says December. What did his health come out like? Did he have to go to the hospital or anything?
No, didn't go to the hospital. Had just more bumps and bruises, just normal, from kicking so much, getting kicked and kicking back, and it was a pretty entertaining fight from a kickboxing standpoint, so that just normal bumps and bruises. It just hurt really a lot right after the fight.
And Tyron Woodley, is there a timetable for him?
We're looking, man. We're trying. He wants to be back sooner rather than later, and we're hoping he can get back sooner rather than later. So there's a fight, hopefully, that we can kind of get booked. Again, August 3rd is going to kind of dictate a lot of what's going to happen in the future. Kamaru, I heard, wants to come back also fast. So you got to think, August, the fight happens. Probably by August 5th, we already know everything else that's going to come up from there. Yeah.
Are you basically now running the management team,
I
and
am.
Malky has moved over to NFL, or is he still kind of have his hand in it?
My brother has gone nowhere other than he's just not out there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When I need him, he's there. He does the NFL stuff for me, or not for me, I'm sorry, for the company, and he does a great job with that. He's also building. We're going to be in MLS by the end of this month. We're going to be in basketball by the end of next year, and probably baseball by the end of the following year. So we have a busy schedule on our plate to grow the company as well. It opens up more opportunities for the guys that we do have, because once you're able to cross, promote and bring in other players. David Njoku walked him out of the fight, and that helps. That helps for for the football fan as well as for the MMA fan. So the more we're able to do things like that, the more it'll help. So we're trying to just take over every sport, little by little.
Well, that's got to sound good, right? You're in pretty good hands over here.
Miami boy.
Is that what it is more than anything? The 305 coming together?
It's a combo of things, man. But yeah, it's his extra wantingness to get it. It's definitely from the Miami side.
Right. Okay, let me try one more time, though. How about let's go back to that meeting? Give me a nugget or something from that meeting.
There's
some
you guys sat there for an hour.
Listen, I
What
absolutely.
you guys talking about? The Women's World Cup?
I'm about to say, I absolutely kiss and tell, but the only thing I don't talk about is when, when numbers and stuff like that, it's kind of hard to put that out there, especially when they're not done yet. So when they're done, I'll come back and I'll give you the scoop.
Right. And that's, by the way, that's something you guys are doing now, right? You're releasing your own scoop. I saw your brother saying that.
Yeah.
What's the stance there? What's the...
It's just... So, as soon as any news, any rumor comes out, me and my brother's phone will go through 15 different text messages confirming or denying each one of them. It gets to the point where, like, okay, so if I give it to this guy, I still got to give it to this guy, and I got to give it to this guy, I got to give it to this guy. We don't want to do that anymore. In every other sport, every other professional sport, the person who breaks the news is the person, whether it's the agent or the actual athlete. This is the only sport where we've got, everybody's a media member.
But you wouldn't say, like, Adam Schefter or Wojnarowski in the NBA?
Adam does, and Woj does, too. They do a good job. And what they do is they develop relationships with the agents and the players, and then they get their information that way. But if you notice, like in the NFL, if a guy has a concussion or, he gets hurt, nobody hears anything from it until, the medical report comes out, so on and so forth. But then you ask the guy. It's not like it comes from a different source. It comes from that source. In our sport, I've got a 16-year-old kid telling me from the UK, he just opened up a podcast. Can he please have so-and-so on? He's got like a total of 500 people that look at him. It's time consuming more than it is anything else. So we just stopped. We just wanted to stop with all the politics and everything. We were just like, look, it's going to come from us. You're going to hear it from us. That's the best way to confirm any type of news story.
Got it. All right. Well, listen. I know you need some sleep. You've been going, 36 hours, 48 hours almost?
Something like
I had to elbow him a couple times there. He started out and off.
No way.
But listen, that was something else, man, what you did. And it sucks that it's taken this long for people to jump on that fucking train, the Game Bread train. I can honestly say I'm a proud member from the Playboy Mansion, being on the train there. So I feel like I moved up. I don't know if I'm, all the way up to where the engineer is or anything like that. But still, I'm glad that all this shine's coming to you. So hopefully those zeros come. Hopefully a title shot comes. I've been tracking your Instagram. You've already gained 100,000 just in the last day or so, and so congrats seriously on all that, man. That's awesome. He told us when he was with us on the military trip, he told everybody, he goes, hey, thank you for everything you do out there to protect us. The freedom that we have, we do not take it lightly. It allows someone like me, to chase my dream and break people's jaws.
Absolutely.
And there was 300 people there, from like generals to just basic units, and everybody went, damn. Like, nobody had ever really put it that raw, you know what I mean? But he did. And, of course, he had the Black Beast next to him, Derek Lewis.
Yep.
So nobody was going to say anything. But still, even I was like, wow, like, what do we do here? There you go. Everybody did clap. Everyone went nuts, man. It was something else.
Nice one.
And he's followed it up with Till and Ben Askren. And you've kind of done it your way without really having to go around smooch people's asses or nothing like that. So, one thing, though. Let me say this. I know you're not big on the hype, the trash talk and all this. But
no, I don't mind the trash talk, but you got to be able to do it like this. Like,
one thing I will say, though.
Do we know if this guy's writing this stuff even? It's so fucking weird.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he is, but if not for that, it also did raise the stakes of the fight. Because when we asked people, hey, man, so what are you more interested in? Look, there was a lot of people that said, the Jones, bro, he's the main event. But you were the people's main event. And some of that comes from that. So, I would say maybe embrace a little bit of it. Like, I
don't mind it. It's not like it bothers or affects me. Well, fuck it, those people got to pay, though.
But you don't think his strategy worked?
You got to pay.
Huh?
You don't think his strategy worked?
Yeah.
Ben the whole time thought he was getting in Jorge's head, and the whole time, really, Jorge was getting in his head. He kept having to show up to the press conferences and whatnot, and he was like, "Oh man," and all this, and
something to be said for that.
And then when he actually saw him in person is when he actually went at him, which is a little bit different than
that was the on the way to the bathroom thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you talk to him in the bathroom or
no? It
was just outside where all that took place. Everything that was on camera was what we saw.
No, they missed a little bit of when I initially ran upon him. But yeah, I mean that's just
like a rush job with the hands behind your back, or what happened?
No, I didn't run up on him like that. Just hey, what's up, man? And he's just a stiff board. I mean, you saw him on the video. I must excuse myself to the bath. I don't want to keep talking about that dude. I already.
All right, so enough of that one. You and Bisping were this close apart, and that was cool. That settled.
I saw him in England before the Till fight, and I had no idea we were gonna talk to him. And he walked by me, shook my hand, and said something like "good luck" or something like that. And kept walking, and I just thought it was cool that he shook my hand, and we hadn't talked to none about it. Just because he could have been a complete asshole. I'm about to fight him like 2 days away from the fight. He could have been a complete asshole and try to fuck with me and get in my head. It wouldn't have worked, but he could have been. You got guys like that. I'm sure somebody you got problems with will try to fuck with you and fight with. So I thought that was real cool, man, that he did it like that.
And Chael was one body over, and I know him and Askren are boys, but it seemed like he was okay with, because you were calling him, calling his boy an idiot for the way he acted and all that. But I'm glad they compartmentalized and did their job.
Chael's more on my side.
Yeah?
Chael's been watching me fight for a while, man. Ben still hasn't yet to fight, man. He's just so fucking stuffing his face in crotches. See, if I talk about him, I got nothing nice to say. Let's just move on. No more Ben questions, man.
All right, how much longer are you in Vegas? You going to Contenders tomorrow?
Not that
Dana White Contender Series?
Not that I know.
You're off to Miami?
Maybe.
L.A. maybe.
L.A.?
Yeah.
All right. What, the ESPYs or something? Or what?
Well, he's got a possible movie role, so we're looking at that.
Oh, Scarface Part 2? Is that going to be you, Tony Montana? He was dropping some
the
quotes.
walkout song, though.
He was dropping some quotes the other day.
Who?
You. On the show, when you called in.
Who was the producer? This guy?
No, Dan's our fight analyst.
Oh, okay.
And goes, well, I don't know. I mean, the producers back in New York, they're scared of you, man. They're like, no, keep them out of the 2-1-2. They want nothing to do with you. Because something about the whole Bruce Lee thing just scared them off a little bit.
He said,
did Bruce Lee throw flying knees?
Well, maybe. Who knows?
Flying kicks, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that was just Jorge clowning around. All right, thanks, man, for stopping by. Appreciate you. Congrats on your win. Thank you
so much
for everything. All right.
Appreciate you.
All right. All right, folks. We're gonna take a quick break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Both iPhone and Android carry a feature to make their show more enjoyable. It's called the mute button. Here are those two numbnuts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, we're back. What a fun segment. What a fun show, man. Calvin always brings it. He's a great co-host. He's coming off that massive win over Ricardo Lamas at UFC 238. He'll join us here in just a second as Masvidal and his team are leaving. But I do want to welcome to the show Tyson Chartier. He is a manager, coach, agent, probably a little bit of everything for guys like Rob Font, Calvin Kattar, Andre Sukumtha. So you have some real killers there. Welcome, Tyson. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, of course. And Calvin Kattar, of course, here with us. So basically he does a lot of roles for you in terms of the coaching and management.
Yeah, his main thing is putting on the sweet sweat. He's big on that. It's
How'd
his
you
favorite
two meet,
part.
by the way?
The Here Comes the Boom movie set. So I'd always knew who Calvin was because he fought at 45 locally, and then that's when Rob was fighting at 45. And he was always the number one guy.
Oh, was that one back when you guys didn't like each other? You and Rob?
They didn't even know each other.
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
Yeah, so everybody wanted them to fight, and I never let it happen. I managed Rob at the time. I was coaching Rob, and I was always saying, I like Calvin. I met him on the movie set of Here Comes the Boom back in 2010. Yeah, and then I just said,
That's how long the movie's been out?
Yeah, we're getting old.
Here Comes the Boom with Kevin.
Yeah, my sister talked me into doing the thing. I didn't really. Well, it kind of helped me with the paperwork.
Almost 9 years.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. I did. It was actually one of the cooler things I'd done.
Get the fuck out of here with Boss and
yeah.
What's his name?
10
Kevin.
10 or 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
time flies,
we
man.
met. There was actually a lot of guys from New England that were extras for the movie, and so we were all on set, just screwing around out back. We were training.
Miller was in there, right, Jason?
Yep. Yeah. We were training out back, and so I've got to meet a lot of guys from New England that were involved in MMA. Believe it or not, in that movie, they all kind of came as extras and kind of brought us together a little bit, and kind of came to fruition in how we did now with all the guys. It's like we all kind of know each other a little bit better from that. Believe it or not, I think that movie, right?
It was a catalyst, yeah. It was good. And then when he decided to come back from his after got Combat Zone, decided to come back, he called and we just got him training together rather than fighting each other.
1 second goes. You want your phone? I don't have your phone. Oh, my phone. Okay. Here you go. All right. So, do you have problems with your fighters? I shouldn't call it a problem, but like Abe doesn't want him to fight. Jorge wants to fight. As a manager and athlete, do you guys like bicker a lot? Or is it pretty easy to get along? I only ask only because Jorge and Calvin just strike me as pretty similar fellas. One guy's Boston guy, one guy's a Miami guy, but it just looks like these guys are like just always intense. You know what I mean? So
I'll say Calvin definitely has a little bit of that Jorge in him. Like he would fight tomorrow if I asked him to. He's a fighter, but I think a lot of the guys I work with, Calvin really, because he's a promoter too.
Yeah.
He really understands the business side of it. So when we put a plan together and I say, hey, listen, maybe this doesn't make sense, like he doesn't ever question me. Like we did like a 5-month contract negotiation to get him his new deal. Never once.
You guys versus the UFC?
Yeah, okay. Like just he was a free agent after his win against Fish Gold. So that was in October. They sent us original offer. We declined, and then we were just sitting still. And he literally told me, he's like, listen, just do your thing. Tell me when I'm signed. Tell me what the numbers are. I trust you.
Fuck. Never for 5 months. You didn't lose your cool.
Well, yeah, no, I trust his judgment, and
yeah.
It made sense. It was a long play, kind of like how Masvidal's manager was saying. Sometimes got to be patient. This is one of those situations, and just kind of staying ready to fight, and it worked out. But I do have a lot of that fuck it in my system, and it's kind of tough to balance that as a fighter with being the promoter and trying to be professional, because I try not to let it come out too much.
Right.
But as a fighter, it's fun as hell letting loose. It's almost like when you're a fighter, everyone goes around your schedule a little bit more. You're kind of able to just, do your thing. But when you're a promoter, it's like you got to go around all these other people and make sure they all align to do the shit you need them to do. And it's just kind of becomes more of a pain in the ass. But it's a lot of freedom in just being a fighter and having a lot of fuck it in your system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's really easy to deal with. Like
that 5-month period was like, was there was a lot of that time was just like bluffing, like we're not gonna make a move, but they're not gonna make a move, or was it constant contact the whole way?
No, we were real patient. He wasn't in a huge rush to get back in there because Rob Font had a fight. He was helping him get ready, and he had a show coming up after that he was promoting. So it was about like let's be in. He's been in the gym the whole time. Be in the gym. Let's get better. Let's fill some holes that we had. and we'll be ready when they call. And there was a couple dates that were thrown out. We said yes to pretty much everything, and then they just never happened. And then when we finally did get, all right, hey, we got Lamas on this date. He's already accepted, and then it just came together within a couple days, and then.
That's crazy.
The worst, man. You agree to fight 2 guys. You say yes. They both, oh yeah, and then they both end up fighting each other. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, come on, man. I don't know. So we were sitting on the side. It wasn't because we didn't fight. We were inactive because we didn't want to fight. We didn't get options. We said yes to everything, and it just didn't work out. And then I like to think a lot of times that things happen for reasons, whatever. Worked out, and here we are now in the second fight of our second contract, coming off a big win.
Have you guys had one of those meetings, I guess, like they just had,
Not yet. No.
Where they're able to, dude, right, Dan? Calvin could walk in there, have lunch, and by the end of lunch, the suits would be huddling up going, we got to fucking keep this dude. I mean, like, I told you, Calvin, when you were here with Rob, the times we had you on the phone, you were cool. I mean, maybe it was fight week and all that, but when you were here with Rob, I was like, these guys need a fucking show, like a reality show. This guy's a riot. I mean, that's why we wanted you here for 2 hours, so you could chime in on different topics and talk stories and talk shop. And I've always felt that way about Jorge. Maybe he's a little bit more quiet, but he just got, a little bit of that street swag. You know what I mean?
I get that, man.
And
I get that.
I hope you get one of those meetings, man, because
I think they're starting to see it. Like, you saw they gave him a little juice on the fight week last time, posting his highlights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you're starting to get a little bit more of that love. But, you got to understand, like, I'm obviously, like, he's a huge priority to me, but he's one of 600 to them. So we have to do something special to stand out, and he's doing that now. So I think, they're going to start to see those impressions happen on social media. People are tuning in when he fights. We're getting good placement on cards. So I think, all we can do is focus on what we can control, and that's, make sure we're taking smart fights, getting good wins. Mm-hmm. And then the rest, like, it'll fall into place. But, winning is the most important thing, obviously.
That's true. That placement on the cards really speak volumes. I think from all regimes and matchmakers, I think that's something that's been, from the Joe Silva era to now with Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby. They have different styles, obviously, of matchmaking, but the card placement's huge, and you look at that. I was going to ask you something curious. A lot of, I felt the same way, and a lot of my friends, whether they're pros or amateurs, they all said, it's easier when I competed. It's harder when someone I know, is competing and being in that corner. Do you feel that? Have you been able to get over that? Or are there certain fights like he was talking about, I believe, the Fishgold fight where you're gambling on yourself, where even you as the manager, obviously you believe in your guy, you've got a great relationship, but you're feeling it going in there. Do you get that too?
I've said this before, like, I'm competitive now. Like, I was an athlete. I fought. I'm more competitive as a coach. Like, I'll walk upstairs to go to bed at night after putting my kids to bed, and I'm like, no. I got to go watch more video. And, like, I'll go down and I'll break down more video. And I just don't want the other coach to be working harder than me. Like, I want to know everything this guy's going to do before he does it. And then when we go into our training sessions, like, I want to know everything he should or shouldn't be doing, and then a reason why. Like, it's his fight, it's his Super Bowl, it's his wedding, however you want to put it. But I want to know, like, when I go in to take one of those 3 stools in the corner, like, I know I'm prepared. Like, and
I love hearing that.
Yeah, for me, it's huge to have those 3 seats behind me, emotionally invested in what's about to happen, because I can feel that shit, if it's not. And I know you could hear it in the what's that? The Thrills and Agonies. After the last fight, he was screaming like a girl. It was awesome. I was like,
it was a little embarrassing.
Yeah, it was awesome. No, but emotionally invested. That's how we want everybody involved in the camp, because I sure as hell am, and it's like we're going to war in my head every time I step in there. Kill or be killed, same mindset, So it's good to have someone that's in your corner that feels the same way. You need it.
Mm-hmm. What did you think when you heard Masvidal getting a movie? I just finished watching The Town. I could see you.
Do you think he's going to play a good guy or a bad guy?
Oh, yeah, he's not going to be no stockbroker or nothing like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, Masvidal, but where would he be from? Boston? Was it Southie, Dorchester? Where's Masvidal's character from?
Charlestown? Aren't they the bank robbers or something?
North End, man. North End, right? You're not Italian, but he fit right in over there, man.
Was that a fictional city? The one that was called like Charlestown?
That's a real town.
No, that's real.
And they're like bank robbers.
We pronounce it Charleston.
Charleston. Okay. Yeah. All right. My bad. But would you want to be a bad guy too?
Yeah, it's too cold from up there though. I'd rather go down to Miami and play a bad guy down there too. I just got family keep me all up north, man. If it wasn't for family, I mean, I already travel enough as it is, but
You live in Costa Rica.
Yeah, right. No, it's been a long month, man. July's, I feel like they've been like that lately. But I was really happy to be out here for Fight Week. And the cool part about it this time was just doing the expo. It was really cool to see all the fans and things like that. And I don't know, after the last win and then being out here where all the fans travel into one place, it kind of was cool to meet a lot of them as opposed to being washed out, not so concentrated in here in Vegas as it is. It's pretty cool to see a lot of people and be able to do that.
What was something pretty cool that you heard from a fan?
Do you remember? You were there most of it. Oh no, you weren't there for any of it. That's right.
I was watching my kids.
I was talking to you today. Pretty cool thing that happened as far as really it's just more so like you'd be walking up, and that's why I don't know, eye contact and things like that. Sometimes, and there's a lot of weird people nowadays. You kind of always got to be ready, but I never know if they like have problems or if they're a fan or whatnot. And just out here, it was really cool, man. Just being like hearing the tone in which some of the people were like, Calvin Kattar, and like the emotion in the voice. I'm like, oh shit, this guy actually kind of gives a shit. It's like pretty cool. I put down all my shit, take pictures, do everything. But it's to me that's really cool. And I'm sure Masvidal's part, he seems like he's a cool cat, but I mean he probably deals with it way worse than I do. But it shows me also that even at that level, still barking for extra zeros, man. We all got to do it. We all got to jock.
Yeah,
right?
For sure, man.
I respect it.
That's great though that you were getting some love from the fans this week.
Yeah, it was really cool. Really cool.
Let me get your thoughts, Tyson, on John Jones versus Santos. How'd you score it?
I really thought it was a toss-up fight. Like I can see why it was a split.
Yeah.
I've had this argument with a couple people where they're like, "Well, if you're gonna win, you gotta beat the champ."
But I don't believe in that.
There's no when the judges sit down to learn how to
the
judges sit down to learn how to score a fight, there's not a difference for a title fight. So I can see it going either way. I really think it was just came down to
I think they just turn in a 10 and a 9. Who won the round, and then at the end they add it up and go. I'm sure when they turn it in, like the guy that turned in Santos, he's probably going, oh, shit. Like, if somebody else saw what I saw, we have a new champ. Yeah. But I don't think there's ever a time where they go, hey, go in the back, huddle up as judges, come out like a jury, like in 30 minutes or 2 hours. And thereby they're arguing and they're saying, and then someone at the end goes, okay, to take it from the champ, or to beat the champ, you got to take it. No, man. They just turn in scores, and however it works out, it works out. The only thing I can see is maybe a 10-10 round, maybe just someone being more mesmerized by the presence of the champ. Maybe they give them a 10 instead the 10-9. But even then, a lot of these judges have done so many of these fights. I just think they're beyond all that.
I just think they look at a close fight. I do think the belt does have an impression on them. They're like, well, that was a close round. Obviously, give it to Jones. But I think you could have argued either way. If Jones won, I think people would argue Santos. I think people would argue just because he's the GOAT. But you really couldn't argue either way for that, and both sides can make a case. So,
should anybody retire from what you saw this past weekend? Some names got thrown out: Diego Sanchez, Luke Rockhold. Dana threw out that one. Diego's just somebody that always gets thrown out because I think he's on his 33rd fight. Yeah. You know what I mean? Holly Holm, she's 40, so maybe hers is a little bit of an age thing. Can she really get to the top? But what do you guys think? Do the fans and media press that too much?
It's a tough call to say. If you're not the fighter themselves, it's tough to tell someone what to do. And usually when you tell them what to do, they're going to want to do the opposite a lot of times. But I think that conversation is meant to be had with the people that are in the 3 seats behind them or, his manager, things like that. But fair questions for sure by all of them.
Do you agree with any of them? Or can they all continue fighting in your mind?
I could see all 3 of them, all the ones you mentioned, retiring. But then you got to factor in, living standards or how they feel about coming off of a loss. Because I think all 3 of them came off losses, and that's the only time that topic comes up. They said the same shit about Tom Brady. And then what's he do? He fuck around and win another Super Bowl, and they're all scared of him next year. So, who knows? They come off a big win. You never know. But off all 3 coming off losses, you could see it. But
what do you think, Tyson? Should anybody retire or get a serious look?
I don't think it's really appropriate for people who aren't in that inner circle to have an opinion. I get it's like, clickbait on this end, but from no, what I'm saying? Like the media, it's a good topic. You talk about it, you debate. But I don't think if you're not in that inner circle, it's like your opinion is just your opinion. it should have no bearing on whether or not they retire.
That's true. That's really, really true. Yep. All right, we got to take a quick break, and then Dan and I will weigh in on this topic. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 156. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Knuckle sandwich and some punch. The boys are about to break down the latest in MMA news. Here are George, Goes, and Dan.
All right, so listen up, Junkie Nation. We'll unpack more of 239 tomorrow. But we got a couple calls in, so let's take these calls. We'll start off with Russ in Boston. What's up, Russ? How you doing? Russ from Boston.
Hey there, George.
His connection just dropped.
Okay, let's go to Kevin in Chicago. What's up, Kevin?
Guys, I got a quick question for Calvin. Calvin, your toughest fight was against Renato Moicano, who he chewed your legs up a little bit. And I know you said you trained with boxers, and you said boxing, like your boxing is on point, but how have you improved your leg kicks for someone like that? And how about your wrestling defense? If someone wants to, some grinder like a Darren Elkins just want to come forward, you can't put him out of there. He's using his wrestling. What's your thoughts on that? Some guy which wants to trade leg kicks or use a wrestling heavy pressure. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, for sure. Fair questions. Yeah, of course. Thanks for calling in. I'd say that the Moicano fight wasn't my toughest fight. It just didn't handle it correctly. I even say probably the Burgos fight was even a little tougher maybe. You know, it was a good fight, tough kid. But aside from that, dealing with the leg kicks, I feel like we've handled that pretty well. We made a good adjustment, and I'm ready for anybody that tries to do it again. I think Lamas tried a little bit in the beginning, and we dealt with it, as the round went on well. I think he missed, or I checked, more kicks than he landed, and I'm ready for it, man. But as far as the wrestling, I'd say my takedown defense is pretty decent, considering I haven't been on the ground in a long time. But they can try, man. They just better keep their chin down and their hands up.
I love it. All right. Going back to the retirement stuff, Dan, what your thoughts? Diego, Luke, Holly, are you good with all of them continuing, or are you feeling something along the lines of what people are putting out there?
I've always kind of had the same opinion as Tyson has, to be honest.
The circle, right? It's up to the circle, yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
That's just kind of something I've always had as well. But I will say, if to put a fun aspect of it was the gambling, they had numbers on it as far as odds. I'd say that Gilbert Melendez is probably your top guy.
Another guy.
I think everybody's going to be calling for Diego, but everybody's been, any kind of criticisms you want to, Diego, he's always kind of been that.
Pretty good though, man. He's just a bigger dude.
He's always, aside from that matchup, he's always done well in those matchups. He's grappled competitively, consistently throughout his career outside of the octagon. And again, say what you will. The one thing you can't say is, one, he's always kind of been kooky, and that's putting it kindly. But two, he also has a purpose, though. You know what I'm saying? He's kooky as it is, even if he's going in there with some yoga dude who probably has no business being there. The dude is driven and kind of has a purpose there. Whereas, I love Gilbert Melendez. I know you guys have a relationship. Yeah. Shout outs to Mr. Melendez, his father, great guy. But I almost wonder why are you doing it? Gil lucked out. He's one of those guys that came over. He got that real big contract. He got injured, but he got the tough and the title shot. And since then, I'm sure he's only done well. Has had analyst spots, other things to do. And he's talked about it himself. He's talked about retirement, which is always a sign. He's talked about wanting out of fights within rounds, and he's a tough dude. If he says that, it means something. And so I don't say it as disparaging. I don't want him to, but if you're asking who's the best bet, George, I say Gil.
Yeah, he had a rough outing there against Arnold Allen. All right, so you guys are in town. Are you supporting a teammate for Dana White Contender Series, or are you just hanging out for overstaying your stay for international?
Both. I always like to overstay my welcome in Vegas, especially for UFC fight week.
Who's running tomorrow?
Justin Sutmer.
Okay.
He's from Connecticut.
Okay.
Is FAA, right?
Yeah, FAA. Nick Newell student.
Nice.
So
tough kid.
He fought last summer. He fought Ian. He got a poor draw last summer in the Contender Series. He fought Ian Heinisch.
Oh, yeah.
Who's a beast.
Right,
we knew that was a tough fight going in. But if you go
legit.
back and watch the fight, Justin caught a kick, took him down, passed his guard, took his back.
Yeah, got his back, yep.
Caught his back, and then just got a little high. Made a mistake, got a little high, and you can't get under a guy like Ian Heinisch. You see what he does to all the other UFC fighters.
Right.
And, man, so we're excited. So we went back, got to win a Bellator, and now we're coming back here. I like this matchup.
Nice.
He's a beast, man. He knows, after feeling someone like Heinisch, who's I believe he's ranked now, right?
Yes.
And seeing what he did, I'm sure probably took
and then
the
now
sting
he's just in such a better place mentally. But right before that fight happened,
I got to jump in here.
Go ahead,
Sorry. The show is ending, but we'll have you back, Tyson. Yep. You know what I mean? This was really, really fun. Thank you to Jorge Masvidal, Abe Kawa, Tyson Chartier, and, of course, Calvin Kattar. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Go out there and be a champion.